You're tuned in to the English Up Podcast.
Brought to you by the Speak English with Us.
Quick question. How many things are blinking at you right now? If your brain's already bracing itself, you're in the right place. Because today we're talking about why choice can feel like a trap.
And if your phone's buzzing, your inbox is packed, and lunch still hasn't happened, you're not lazy. You're overloaded by tiny decisions.
This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you're welcome too. And honestly, if you're hearing this while staring at a to-do list, we see you.
I can picture it. One tab for work, one tab for messages, one tab for food, and somehow your brain just says, nope. That freeze isn't random. It's decision fatigue.
And that matters because the real problem isn't just having too much to do. It's that every little thing asks you to start thinking again, and again, and again, which is exhausting.
Exactly. You don't just get tired from doing the work. You get tired from choosing the work, then choosing the order, then choosing whether to answer now or later.
So if you've ever spent 10 minutes deciding on a reply and then another 10 minutes regretting it, this episode is basically your rescue plan.
We'll show you a simple two-list rule that cuts the mental mess fast. And there's one tiny shift that can save you from turning every choice into a full emotional event.
Let's make it practical, because nobody needs a podcast that sounds smart and helps with nothing. That's my personal least favorite kind.
Same. Quick challenge A or B. Do you overthink messages or do you overthink meals? Pick one in your head right now. No cheating.
Stay until the end for our word tour 5 expressions you'll actually hear in real life, not museum English. And later, we'll give you one tiny trick that makes busy days feel less chaotic.
While you're listening, I'm guessing you're either walking, commuting, or pretending to work while this episode secretly does the heavy lifting.
So let's start with the feeling behind it. That weird, stuck, half-frustrated moment when even choosing one small thing feels weirdly heavy.
That's where we're going. And once you see the pattern, you'll realize the problem isn't your personality. It's the way your choices are stacked.
Let me paint the picture. It starts before noon. You've got 12 unread messages, 4 emails waiting, and 3 projects tapping you on the shoulder.
And every single one is asking you to choose something. Reply now, reply later, move this, ignore that, fix this first. That's the drain.
Exactly. Then lunch shows up and suddenly even a simple lunch decision turns into a mini crisis. You open the app, scroll, close it, open it again, and somehow it feels personal.
That's because your brain isn't judging food, it's judging effort. If I order the wrong thing, I'll regret it for 3 hours. Very dramatic, very human.
I do that with messages too. I'll decide on a reply, then weigh up whether I sound too direct, too cold, too eager. And by the time I'm done, the moment's gone.
That's a classic headache, not a medical want-a-decision headache. The task isn't huge, but the mental friction around it keeps growing.
So the stress isn't just the task itself. It's the tiny invisible committee in your head arguing about it.
Exactly. And that committee gets louder when the choices are unstructured. Choice architecture matters here. That's just a simple way of saying the setup changes the outcome.
So if my day is set up badly, I'm not weak. I'm just fighting the system?
Pretty much. If everything looks equally important, your brain keeps redeciding the same thing. That's why people get stuck on first steps.
I hate that part. I'll look at one project and think, I should decide on the outline. Then suddenly I'm thinking about the headline, the email, the schedule, the version history, and I'm gone.
That right there is the spiral. One choice becomes 5, then 10, Then you start avoiding the whole thing because it feels like a toss-up between stress and more stress.
And the weirdest thing is how small the original choice was. Reply to one client. Pick one lunch. Confirm one meeting. Yet it keeps expanding.
That's where decision fatigue gets sneaky. You don't notice it in one moment. You notice it when the whole afternoon feels slippery and oddly blank.
Oh, that blank feeling. I know it. It's like my brain's still awake, but the part that wants to choose has left the building.
And then you start doing busy work just to avoid the choice. You clean your inbox, reorganize a folder, check a note app, anything but the real decision.
That's such a polite form of panic. Let me alphabetize my stress.
Exactly. And here's the part I want to make practical. When a choice keeps dragging, the issue isn't always the choice itself. Sometimes it's that you're treating every item like it's worth equal attention.
So if I'm deciding on 5 things at once, I'm basically paying full emotional price for each one?
Yes, and that's why people need a rule of thumb, not more willpower. A rule of thumb gives you a fast filter when your mind's tired.
Like, if it takes too long, stop?
Better than that. If you can't decide in 5 minutes, park it. That's the kind of rule that keeps one small choice from eating the whole day.
Okay, that feels brutally useful. And also slightly rude in a good way.
Good, because we don't need more heroic overthinking. We need fewer decisions that pretend to be emergencies.
So the story here is simple. The more times you restart your thinking, the faster you burn out.
Exactly. And in the next part, we'll show you the to-list rule that makes this mess much smaller. We'll also show you how to sort the choices before they sort you.
And by the way, there is a phrase for this kind of stress. It's called a headache. We'll break it down later, but not the medical kind, the my brain is tired of this kind.
That's the one. And once you hear the pattern, you'll start spotting it everywhere. In replies, meals, meetings, even tiny errands.
Which is exactly why this episode matters. You're not broken. You're just carrying too many open loops.
And that's fixable, one cleaner choice at a time.
So here's the big question. Are we saying people should avoid deciding or just decide better? Because I don't want this to turn into never think again.
No, it's not that. It's about stopping the waste. A lot of people spend energy deciding on things that should have been handled by a simple system.
But wait, isn't choosing part of being careful? If I don't weigh up enough, I might rush, miss something, and create a bigger problem later.
Sure, but there's a limit. If you weigh up the same lunch option for 10 minutes every day, you're not being careful anymore. You're leaking focus.
I get that, but I still think some choices deserve more attention. If you treat everything like a toss-up, don't you risk becoming careless?
That's fair, but most of the daily stuff isn't a toss-up. It's just pretending to be one. The question is whether the decision changes anything important.
So you're telling me which notebook should I use drama is not a moral crisis?
Exactly. That's a headache wearing a fancy hat. It looks serious, but it's mostly noise.
Still, I worry that a fast rule can feel cold. Some people need space to think. If you move too quickly, you can end up deciding on the wrong thing and regretting it all day.
I don't disagree that reflection matters. I'm saying reflection needs boundaries. Otherwise, it turns into a loop. And loops are where decision fatigue lives.
Okay, then explain the boundary. Because just be faster sounds nice, but real life doesn't always cooperate.
Fine. Here's the practical version. If a choice has low impact and low reversal cost, use a rule of thumb and move on. If it's high impact, weigh up the options properly. That's the filter.
So you're not arguing for less care overall. You're arguing for smarter care.
Exactly. Care where it counts. Automate where it doesn't.
But what if the small thing keeps affecting the bigger thing? Like replying to one client can shape the whole project.
Then it isn't really a small thing. It moves into the first list. The problem isn't size alone. It's consequence.
Okay, that's a better distinction. But I still think people get trapped because every item feels urgent once it's staring at them.
That's why the brain needs a filter before the panic starts. Once you're already stressed, everything looks equally loud.
So basically, my brain turns into a nightclub bouncer with no guest list?
Pretty much. And every note, message, and meeting is shouting, "Pick me, pick me." Of course you freeze.
I can see that. But here's my pushback. Some of this is emotional, not logical. You can know the rule and still not follow it when you're tired or anxious.
Absolutely. That's why the system has to be easy enough to use when you're at your worst. If the rule needs a perfect mood, it won't survive the week.
So the point isn't inspiration, it's design.
Yes, good choice architecture removes friction before the friction grows teeth.
Before the friction grows teeth is scary but accurate.
It's memorable too. And it's why a two-list setup works. One list for must-decide items, one list for later delegated or automated items.
But I'm still not fully sold on the 5-minute rule. Some things need a bit of space. What if 5 minutes is too rigid?
Then use it as a rule of thumb, not a prison. The goal isn't perfection, it's reducing pointless hesitation. If a decision is still unclear after 5 minutes, that itself tells you something.
Like what?
Like you may not have enough info yet, or like the decision doesn't deserve your full energy right now. Either way, you stop pretending uncertainty is productive.
That actually resonates. Because half my stress is from acting like delay is the same thing as effort. It's not. It's just delay in a smarter outfit.
Exactly. And that fake productivity is a headache for teams too. One person waits, another person waits, and suddenly the whole workflow is sitting in traffic.
So the hidden cost is not only mental, it's organizational. The more we avoid a clear call, the more we create back and forth, and the more energy gets wasted.
That's the whole point. A simple rule saves time, but it also saves emotional bandwidth. Less second guessing, fewer reopenings, fewer just checking in messages.
And fewer dramatic inner speeches in the kitchen at 9 p.m.
That too. And if you want one practical example, imagine a remote worker with 3 daily decisions: reply to clients, schedule meetings, and confirm deliverables.
Right, all the tiny things that can eat the day alive.
Exactly. Put urgent client reply in the first list. Put meeting reshuffle and non-critical follow-up in the second list. Then use the rule of thumb. If it won't change today much, park it.
But what if the second list gets huge?
Then you review it at a fixed time. You don't keep redeciding all day. That's how you protect focus.
So the real battle is against constant reopening. That's the loot that steals the afternoon.
Exactly. And the best part is, once people see this, they stop blaming themselves for being bad at choosing. They're not bad. They're overexposed.
That feels important. Because shame makes the freeze worse. A better system makes the shame smaller.
And that shift is the win. Not perfect decisions, cleaner ones.
Stay with us because next we're moving into the bridge and then we'll unpack the 5 key phrases we used today.
And once you hear them in context, they'll stick a lot faster than a textbook list ever could.
So now you can see the pattern. The freeze starts when every choice feels equal, urgent, and personal.
And the fix isn't heroic effort. It's a simple filter, a cleaner setup, and fewer pointless redecisions.
In a second, we'll turn those ideas into 5 real phrases you can use right away.
These are the exact expressions that help you sound natural when you talk about pressure, priorities, and choosing.
Let's jump into the word tour and make those phrases stick. Okay, now we can pull the language out of the story because those phrases were doing real work the whole time.
And they sounded natural because they fit the pressure of the moment, not because we forced them in.
Let's start with the one people use all the time when a choice finally lands in your lap. Decide on.
Right? You use decide on when you've thought for a bit and then pick one option. It's not about a giant life choice only.
Like, I decided on the blue shirt. Simple, clean, done.
Or, we decided on Friday for the meeting. Short sentence, clear choice, no drama.
And notice the feeling behind it. You're usually past the wobbling stage. You're not circling anymore. You're landing.
Exactly. If I say, I decided on the client reply, that means I stopped browsing options and made the call.
That little phrase is useful because it sounds calm, even when the choice didn't feel calm at all.
And that calm sound matters, because people often want to know the final answer, not the whole mental storm.
Now let's move to way up. This one has more texture, right?
Yes, way up means you look at the good and bad sides carefully before choosing. You're not guessing, you're comparing.
So when I'm staring at 2 lunch options for too long, that's me weighing up sushi versus pasta like it's a government decision.
Exactly, and you could say, I'm weighing up the pros and cons. That's the classic use.
It sounds sensible, but also a little exhausted, which feels very on brand for this episode.
It does. And if someone says, we're weighing up the timing, it means they're thinking carefully before they commit.
What about toss-up? That one feels more casual.
It is. A toss-up is when 2 choices are so close that it's hard to say which one is better.
Like, it's a toss-up between tea and coffee? That's not deep, but it is painfully familiar.
Or it's a toss-up between replying now and after lunch. That one hits harder because both options have a cost.
And that's why the phrase helps. It gives you a neat way to say, I honestly can't separate these two.
Exactly. It doesn't mean you're indecisive forever. It means the options are genuinely close.
Now for headache. This one is interesting because we used it in a very specific way.
Right. In this episode, headache doesn't mean only pain in your head. It can also mean something that causes stress, trouble, or repeated annoyance.
So if I say scheduling this project is a headache, I'm not talking about medicine. I'm saying it's a hassle.
Exactly. Or that email thread is a real headache. It's short, clear, and very natural.
Honestly, some inboxes deserve that word. Mine has definitely earned it on bad weeks.
Mine too. The great thing is that headache is flexible. It works for tasks, systems, and awkward problems.
And the last one is rule of thumb. I like this one because it sounds practical without sounding cold.
That's exactly what it is. A rule of thumb is a simple guide you use from experience. It's not perfect science, it's a useful shortcut.
So our 5-minute idea was a rule of thumb. Not a law, not a test, just a reliable guideline.
Right. You could say, as a rule of thumb, if it takes more than 5 minutes, park it. That gives your brain a clean boundary.
And that boundary is the whole point of this episode. Not endless self-control. Just a better way to sort the noise.
One more thing. These phrases often travel together in real life. You might weigh up 2 options, then decide on one, and call the other a headache.
That sounds like a very normal workday, sadly.
Totally. And if you're not sure which phrase fits, the rule of thumb is simple. Use the one that sounds like how people actually talk.
Nice. So the language is practical, the choices are smaller, and the stress drops a bit.
Exactly. And now you've got 5 phrases that can help you talk about the whole mess without sounding stiff.
That means next time your day feels packed, you can say it in a way that sounds natural instead of heavy.
And that makes a difference. Language doesn't fix the inbox, but it can help you describe the problem clearly enough to manage it better.
So there you have it. The real problem wasn't that you had too much to do. It was that every tiny choice kept draining the same battery.
Exactly. And the fix isn't magical. It's a better filter, a calmer setup, and fewer moments where your brain has to start from zero.
One practical move is to write your 2 lists before the day gets noisy. Put the must-decide items on one side and everything else on the other. Then stop reopening the second list.
Another move is using the 5-minute rule of thumb. If you're still circling after 5 minutes, park it and review it later. Instead of pretending more staring will help.
And if something feels like a headache before lunch, that's a sign it needs structure, not more guilt. I used to think I was just disorganized, but really, I was letting every decision act like a full project.
Same here. Once I started deciding on the important things earlier, my day felt less noisy. I didn't become faster by force. I became faster by removing the false choices.
That part matters. We don't need perfect minds. We need better habits that still work when we're tired, distracted, or frustrated.
Right. Start small. 1 list, 1 rule, 1 fixed review time. That is enough to make a real difference.
And if today feels messy, don't treat that as failure. Treat it as information. Your system needs less friction.
Exactly. Try it for 1 day, then adjust. You don't have to solve your whole life tonight.
Thank goodness, because my evening brain is terrible at life admin.
Mine too. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what's the one decision that keeps draining your energy the fastest?
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and if this episode helped, try the 2-list rule tomorrow. Even once.
Next time, we'll dig into another everyday English problem that looks small on the surface, but eats way more energy than it should.
Thanks for being here with us. And remember, fewer resets can mean a calmer day.
Bye for now.